What if I told you that my piranha are doomed? No matter the aquarium that I've had them in, we grew them out in a 120-gallon aquarium almost 5 years ago. We've had them in a 700-gallon aquarium planted for a couple of years until the soil was no longer able to sustain the plants, and we kind of had to shut that down. Now they're in another planted 375-gallon aquarium, but none of this is going to matter. They're all going to die unless I do one thing. But more on that in a few minutes. A lot of people can't even fathom or understand the idea that I've dedicated such large aquariums, upwards of 700 gallons, to something as simple as piranha. And I kind of want to address why I think so many people don't like them, and or why we don't really see a ton of species only piranha tanks. And I think I've broken it down to top 4 reasons. Number 1, you already know what it is. They are boring, they are ugly, they are skittish. Essentially, the main attributes that you want to be really good in a fish to be able to dedicate the resources that we have to in keeping an aquarium. 2 has to be the fact that they need really big aquariums. Really big aquariums are really expensive and have a lot of really big bills, from food bills, electricity bills, water bills, equipment bills, you name it. And a lot of people seem to not be able to justify dedicating such a large space in their home and that amount of financial obligation to a fish that costs so less and that has relatively poor attributes, and to them, a fish that is uninteresting. I mean, all it's known for is its teeth, right? I also think there's people that do want to keep them, but they can't keep them due to the legal status of them across the world. In many countries, piranha are simply illegal. Not to mention, they're illegal in most of the United States, probably where you're watching from right now. However, up in Canada, where I'm at, in Nova Scotia, they're perfectly legal. Now, the 4th reason is arguably the best reason to keep them. However, we're going to have to elaborate on the first reason, being that they are boring, skittish, and ugly. Well, what I gotta say is that when piranha are kept in properly sized aquariums in proper numbers, like I am with these red bellies, they become absolutely fascinating. A lot of people say they just sit there and don't do anything. They're boring. I say otherwise. Mine are constantly out and swimming and enjoying the aquarium and interacting. Not with me, but with each other. I find that their pack hunting, the hierarchy that I've observed in the aquarium, their intimidation factors, and the delicate balance that they keep within their aquarium is fascinating all on its own. And then we talk about them being skittish. I guess, yes, they can be skittish. If I come up and I start banging on the glass and going crazy, they're gonna lose their minds. You kind of want to leave them alone and just enjoy them. I would say they're a shoaling fish, but sometimes you'd swear they're schooling because they are going directional and meaningful all at the same time, but I think they just find comfort in numbers. In a properly aquascaped piranha aquarium, this is what they do. They're not boring, they're not skittish. And then obviously the last one, they're ugly. Well, you got me there. However, we can appreciate their powerfully built bodies, clearly built for bursts of speed, to run in and grab a chunk of meat and get out. The muscles along their flanks are just, it's almost as if they have like a 6-pack. You can kind of see the striations of the muscle going throughout them. I really actually enjoy the shape of their head as well. You could tell immediately that's a piranha. I also enjoy the metamorphoses the babies go through compared to the adults, starting out as tiny little silver fish with speckles almost looking like a silver dollar or some form of tetra, and that's purposefully. You see, when the piranha are born, it's often in areas with other small fish and tetras, and they kind of blend in. They're spotted along the sides, looking nothing like a piranha right then, but their size allows them to blend in with other fish and not scare them. It allows them to eat the fins off of other fish and scrape the scales, because that's largely the diet of a baby piranha. These fish are highly adapted for survival. As they grow, these are the red belly, so they do get a red belly along the bottom of their chin, back to their anal fin. Sometimes the anal fin will be red as well. They lose all that spotting, and their body still has a gray silver color to it, but it literally looks like their entire body has been dipped in glitter. But ultimately, who cares? They're all just going to eat each other anyways. Remember, we discovered this in the 700 gallon when they were in there, and I'd noticed every once in a while there was a piranha skull. They were eating each other slowly. Every 3 months or so, I'd find another one. And what the thing is there is they are dwindling their pack purposefully. And what we assumed was they're doing it for territory, competition in food, breeding, just to create more space in the tank. And that all makes sense. And we assumed they're going after the smallest and the weakest one. But now, my opinion on that has completely changed. And I don't think they go after the smallest and weakest. I think they create the smallest and weakest to someday take him out. And it's these little things that you discover in the hobby. For me, some 25 years of being in it, that you finally start to see these other little things happening. And it really makes you want to do what I'm about to do. And it gets you excited about it. And right before I started to rip this tank apart, for about a week, I noticed one of the piranha, a random one it seemed, pressed up and into the rock, clearly being forced there. Not hiding from me, but not allowed within the rest of the pack. Nobody was going after him. He wasn't bitten, he wasn't torn up, he wasn't even the smallest one, there was no signs of illness or sickness or difference in coloration, nothing. I could see nothing wrong with this fish. And I thought, okay, well, maybe he is sick. And I thought, I wonder what's wrong with him. I thought, okay, maybe he's sick. I don't know. I got to take this tank apart anyway, so we're going to get him out of there. So I started ripping the plants out by hand. I took a stick, I think it's still up there, and kind of pushing the piranha where I don't want them to be. I got to get all these stem plants out for two reasons. One, it'll be easier to catch the piranha when I drain the tank down to here. I'm not going to have a bunch of plants kind of hanging over them. And two, the fish that's going in here will not tolerate these types of plants. In fact, so I'm going to have to rescape this a little bit to make that work. I rip out all the plants, or as much as I could, with the piranha still in the tank, fill the tank back up, and the next day, the fish that was up in the corner was back in the pack. They accepted him back in. Now, obviously, we've known, and I've taught you in the past, that if you do have certain types of aggression issues with your fish, there's certain things that you can actually do to either buy you time or completely change it. Fish are subject to the environment we place them in, and that includes the water parameters as well as the scape diet and the other fish that we put in there. We can manipulate things from temperature to the actual scape of the tank. If you need to curb it, what we'll look to do is create visual blocks in the tank, move things around. Fish are not as smart as we think. Maybe pufferfish are on a different level, octopuses, that sort of thing, but common fish like the piranha, if I move a rock, it's going to blow their minds, and it's going to reset the pack, and their focus are going to be on that rock as opposed to everybody else in the tank. So when I ripped out all those plants, that was enough of a change for the pack to forget that they had pushed that fish out to the end, or to the edge of existence, and accepted it back in. What I think they were doing is they weren't going after the smallest or the weakest. Something within the pack triggered them to do this fish specifically. They never attacked him, they weren't biting him, nothing like that, but they also weren't going to let him eat. They were creating the weakest and waiting for it to die, and then they would have eaten it. And I think that's what happens, and I think that's how piranhas dwindle each other down. Something in the hierarchy forces them to push one of the piranha out. Now, who is the boss of this tank? And that's something we're going to have to discuss here in a future video, but you would assume it's one of these big 8-10 inchers. It would blow your mind who's the tough guy in this tank, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we put them in an aquarium that they can live in for the rest of their lives. Because if you don't know, the piranha gets to be the size of an Oscar fish, 12, 14 inches. Well, the red belly piranha does. But they get thick and deep bodied. These guys end up being like around 4 or 5 pounds each, needing around 100 gallons each. I have 20 piranha in here, meaning if we do the math, they're gonna need a very large tank, but this is only 375 gallons. Let's call it 400 for easier math. What that means is long-term, realistically, 4 will be in there in like 5 to 10 years. As they grow, they're gonna keep dwindling that pack down and down and down. Probably every 3 to 6 months, we'll lose another one. Until we probably actually end up with only 2. Hopefully it's a breeding pair, but if not, then we might only end up with 1 depending on what goes on in the tank. And I think that is not something I want to experience, because we're not even going to get to experience the true nature of raising a pack of piranha from tiny little babies to absolute monster-sized fish. So, as I said at the beginning of this video, this pack of piranha are doomed unless I do one thing. And that is simply give them a tank that they can grow up in for life. 20 piranha, each needing around 100 gallons of water. That's what, 2,000 gallons. And I think that's why another reason people don't keep packs of piranhas for the 15, 20, 25 years that they live for is because who has a 2,000 gallon aquarium? I do. But it's home to my Asian arowana. And you guys remember a few months back, he became incredibly aggressive and was going after the Oscars. Anything his size or remotely even close to it, he was going after. I've even tried some tetras in here to see if he'll tolerate that, and guppies. I didn't show on camera, but he ate them. Now he's going after the Geophagus. And so you would say, obviously, well, remove the fish. And then what? Then just a 2,000 gallon aquarium with a Asian arowana. Well, that's where the problem is. I don't think a 2,000 gallon aquarium is ideal for a single Asian arowana, similar to the flowerhorn and other fish that kind of need a tank suitable for themselves to feel secure in it. And that's why I built the 375 gallon in the first place. This was built to house 5 Asian arowana, 5 freshwater stingrays, and over the years we've simply dwindled them down, gave them to some store, gave some of the rays to stores, others arowana to hobbyists and that sort of thing. And I got to admit, this tank for me, and probably for you as well, has kind of, it's my least favorite rendition of the 2000. But it would make a really awesome piranha tank, wouldn't it? Finally, the fish that got me into the hobby gets the 2,000 gallon aquarium. How amazing is that journey? And if we do move the piranha to the 2,000 gallon aquarium, I've already got some other scaping supplies because I want to do that rescaped completely, make it look really good, like an Amazonian type style piranha tank, and move my Asian arowana to this tank. I'll have to rescape it slightly to make it more appropriate for the Asian arowana, the Geophagus, and rays. I have other tanks for them as well. This tank was originally built, I built this tank about 10 years ago for Asian arowana. When it comes to fish keeping, there's always that question, what's the minimum tank size this fish needs? Well, there's a minimum, there's ideal, and then sub-ideal. To put that into perspective, if I were to have my Asian arowana, the minimum tank size an Asian arowana full grown would need would probably be something that's like 8 by 2 by 2. So 8 feet long, 2 feet wide, 2 feet tall, probably like 240 gallons. This gives it plenty of space to go back and forth. They do tend to max out at around 24 inches. They can get up to 30, but that's going to take 15, 20 years. My Asian arowana is only 10 years old. He's about 22 inches, 22 inches, something like that. Maybe we'll measure him. But that would be minimum. Ideal is still 8 feet long, 2 feet tall, but 3 feet wide, which is what this tank is. There's not an Asian arowana fish keeper on the planet that wouldn't agree that an 8 by 3 by 2 is the perfect size tank for a single Asian arowana. Some people, in fact, will put in more than one, upwards of 3 to 4, maybe even more, and the more you put in, it dilutes aggression. But when it came to the 2000, the plans there were to have many Asian arowana in there. And I don't think I'll ever do a community of Asian arowana again. 1, because of the expense. 2, mine's already huge, and the odds of me being able to source, 7, 8, 9 more Asian arowana that are really good quality his size is slim to none and probably cost, $50,000 to $100,000. And I'm not really interested in doing that. But the Asian arowana being in there, that's kind of the only thing I can do is pack it full of a bunch of other monster fish. And I don't know if you've noticed in the past few years, I feel like monster fish are kind of phasing out. They're cool at first, but I did them for a long time, and my channel kind of exists because of them, with like rays, Asian arowana. But I've kind of been transitioning into ideal environments for fish, and tanks that I've really wanted to do, but always turned away from it for various reasons. But imagine the Asian arowana in a fully planted tank by himself. I think I'm going to create with these rocks just like a bit of an island to encapsulate a lot of these plants, and then the rest will just be sand on the two ends here. We'll probably still have all these plants there, but that will give him availability, so when I drop in food, he'll be able to find it instead of it falling in the plants and he never sees it. But I definitely think this would be the better tank for him than that. He's constantly jumping in there. He's constantly going after other fish, and it just tells me he's just stressed. The tank might be too big, it's. I think he's going to jump eventually, and I don't know. I think this is the better idea by far. And to be honest with you, I built this tank for him. It's his tank, and I want to put the piranha in the 2000. I think it would be absolutely amazing to have a pack of piranha grow up and grow out to that size, because what immature guy doesn't want to have a monster shark tank or a monster piranha tank or something along those lines to feed his ops to? But that same conversation about like ideal, perfect, and questionable tank size when it comes to stocking of your fish can certainly be applied for fish like discus. For example, get out of the way so you can actually see some of them. For example, discus need around 20 gallons of water for the first fish, and then 10 gallons of water for every fish, every discus after that. Ideally, a pair is good in the 30 gallon. That was what I used to breed mine in for years. And the ideal setup for the discus, especially at smaller sizes like this, is bare bottom. Makes it easier to clean the tank, make sure that they can find the food easily. However, in big tanks like this, a lot of the times it's not advised because it's more difficult for them to find the food, and the environment is not necessarily ideal for baby fish or baby discus. You kind of want to grow them out a little bit more. So there's about a dozen discus in here right now. And if I had to kind of like do this over with just those dozen discus, I'd probably put them in like a 150 gallon tank, something like that. Maybe even 180, a 180, and they could live for life in there and probably do a heck of a lot better in that than they would in the 700. So I think you guys know what I'm talking about when it's like minimum tank size versus ideal versus, maybe the fish isn't going to do that great in that size of a tank, even though it's bigger than ideal. Let me know if you know of any fish that's kind of relatable to that. But there you have it. That is what we're going to be doing. I've been wanting to film this video for a while, even talked about doing it back in December. I posted on Facebook, but the 375 with the Asian arowana, I've got to put him in a different tank. I'm not going to give him a 2,000 gallon aquarium to himself. We just won't tolerate anybody in there with him anymore. And the ideal tank size, plus he's jumping like every 2 seconds. The ideal tank size for him is right here. It's absolutely perfect. Arguably, he should have lived in here his entire life, but the 2000 never was what I always wanted it to be, and it was built to be Asian arowana and stingray. However, we had a couple of them jump, which is inevitable, unfortunately, with Asian arowana. We had breeding difficulties and aggression. Eventually I had to give one away and ended up with just this one. Rays, kind of the same story, is gave some away, some breeding difficulties, that sort of thing. And we've tried different things with the 2000 with like doing community tank and this, that, and the other thing. And I tried to rejuvenate my interest in it. And, it was always hard to, you had a dream and then it just didn't work out. So you're trying to do other things. But like me thinking that the 2000 could possibly have my own giant piranha aquarium is just mind-boggling to me, incredibly exciting, especially since it's going to be so interesting to watch them grow and how they react to having such a large tank, and the ability of me adding in tetras. I'm going to have to add in some little tetras. Heck, I might even be able to add in some like dwarf rainbow fish or something like that to give the tank a little bit more activity, because these 20 in there right now, it looks like a lot of fish, but once they go in the 2000, it's going to look like there's no fish. But that was the case when we started the 2000 out. Is like I only had like a little Asian arowana in there, and people were like, "Oh, it looks so empty," and I was like, "Give it time; they're gonna grow." The same thing here. When it comes to putting the Asian arowana in here, though, I'm going to have to do a slight rescape just to make this tank more practical for him. I've always thought and wanted a planted Asian arowana aquarium, but the ideal setup is bare bottom. But I could make a planted tank work so long as I get all these stems out. I do need somewhere to put the piranha while I make this transition, and what I'm gonna do is built a stand over here. I'm gonna put a 180-gallon aquarium on it. I'm going to fill it up with water, obviously, put the piranha in the 180, lower the water level, rescape this a bit, get it set up, fixed, raise the water level up, put the Asian arowana in it, move the rest of the geophagus, the ray, and the other little fish that are in there into another 180-gallon aquarium. And once that's all done, take these guys and put them in the 2000 after I rescape the 2000. Yeah, and imagine the 2000, because they're going to go through a growth spurt in that. Imagine the 2000 in a year from now. Over the course of the next 3 months, I'll get tetras. These guys, I'll be able to feed them more often and really put on some size in that sized aquarium. And it'll just be absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to leave the 180-gallon here. I'm going to put the electric eel back over here. I hate him down there. He's just too darn active. I'm going to put him in here so we can see him from all different sides. He's like a huge celebrity on like Instagram, TikTok, those types of things. He keeps going viral there. Well, same with the piranha. All my tanks do, because they're super cool tanks. So you just got to give me a chance. I know that so many of you are going to be mad about the piranha tank or the 2000 turning into a piranha tank, but this is going to be ideal. They're going to be able to live their lives out in here. And the Asian arowana can live his life out in here. This tank was built for Asian arowana. I guess I'm trying to justify this to everybody. I'm just ripping the Band-Aid off. I just wanted to say this immediately. Like, this is happening no matter what. Some people will be mad, some people will be excited. Personally, I don't care because I'm excited and I cannot wait. And if I do something, if I get this excited about something and if I really want to do something and I have this vision in it, you guys know you're always mad at first, but then you're like, yeah, maybe he was right, because it ends up really cool. This tank doesn't look good at all. Yeah, the plants are growing, but it needs a bit of an adjustment to the layout. I need all of these plants out, and I'm going to add the rocks in and do something a little different here, because some of the plants aren't really growing in certain areas because the stem plants here is kind of killing everything. So I'm going to take these rocks, and I'm going to wrap it around almost like in the middle, like almost like a fireplace, not a fireplace, yeah, a fireplace, like a campfire, and have the plants coming out, and then they can come out of the rocks as well. But this will allow the Asian arowana to see his food on the ends, because I'll likely be feeding him over here. I don't want to feed him here because it could just drop into the plants and he wouldn't get it and then just rot in the tank. But that's it. I don't know when I'm going to be able to start this. I got to move the 180-gallon aquarium out here, and there's like 4 feet of snow outside. So maybe I could shovel a massive or plow a massive walkway and get started on that. But honestly, I'm excited. You're probably going to see a heck of a lot more videos from me, like every couple of days moving forward, because I'm excited and I really want to do this and I really want to share it with you and bring you along for the ride. And if you want to see that, you're not subscribed to this channel yet, I highly suggest you do. And if you are subscribed, give this video a like and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on this. I can't be crazy, right? Well, maybe I am crazy if I'm doing this.